Hi friends, welcome back to Micro Rigs RC. Today we're going to talk about the Axial SCX24 Ford Bronco. Everybody's talking about this. Is the latest version of the SCX24. It has a hard body. As you know, it's the first time that Axial makes a hard body for a crawler. So how does it perform? Well, now you have seen hundreds of videos. Basically, it's kind of a similar version because it has the same everything that the Jeep Wrangler or the Chevy C10, but with a hard body, so it means it's a bit more top heavy, and it introduced the V2 electronics, which are way softer and smoother and better in all terms of controls, and it comes with a new controller that I don't like at all. So we'll talk about how to work with this top-heavy setup, even working with the roof rack and all the accessories, all the scale-looking accessories. I love them, and with the spare tire behind. But we're talking about all the basic mods, all the must-go modifications that you have to do dial in your SCX24 setup. So let's see how it goes. The first weak point from an Axial SCX24 used to be, of course, the wheels. So the wheels that come with the car are pretty looking, especially good scale looking Nitto Trail Grappler. They're lovely, but they are not sticky at all. So I think that probably the main thing to change are the tires. As you may know, the plastic wheels come glued to the tire, so you have to either, if you want to reutilize the rim, which I like to do for different reasons that we will be seeing in a later video, you can just very carefully tear it apart, bend it a bit, and with a hobby knife like this you can start like removing all the glue from it and separate it very easily from that. But what I would do is get a set of rims and a set of decent tires. My favorites probably are the RC 4-wheel drive Goodyear Wrangler MTs. I think they are 52 or 54 millimeter, which is kind of similar to the normal regular Bronco wheels, a bit smaller than the Jeep Wrangler. As you know, they're a bit bigger, but kind of similar to the Bronco and to the Gladiator size and diameter. So you can get these Bitlock metal rims that are very popular over there. One of the main advantages of the Bitlock system is that you can just disassemble the wheel in 2 or 3 parts and just separate and tear apart the tire and reutilize it in another tire, or maybe change the rim. That is definitely an advantage instead of gluing it to the rim that could be more or less forever in there, or you cannot remove it without damaging. But one of the main problems with that is that you don't have a lot of space to put wheel weights inside most of the Bitlock wheels. So, well, we will be covering that in another video, as I said. Second, what is the second weak point of every Axial SCX24? I think, in my opinion, one of the weakest points of this is the steering setup. So it's the C-hubs, the steering links and the servo are really awful. I think it's a disaster that one of the main brands for RC off-road like Axial is really putting this thing on their cars, on their ready-to-run cars. Normally the links doesn't suffer a lot of stress with the weights of this car and with the performance of these cars. I think that the main point of stress can be on the steering links, and this is where you have to check at these stock factory steering links that are super soft and absolutely imprecise. They're also the balls that are attached to them are really weak and have a lot of play. And the servo, of course, is weak and imprecise as well. So one of the things that I do first thing when I get a new Axial SCX24 is to get metal steering links. So there's one for the servo and one for the properly steering between the wheels. And the C-hubs, I like them in brass. So I used to do it in almost all my rigs. I put the brass C-hubs and the metal steering links. This is a very cheap modification. It's like 10 bucks for the links and 10 for the C-hubs. It's making an impressive difference in terms of steering precision and strength. And I've seen recently that also Injora, for example, is now selling this set of links in aluminum, but now also in brass. I have them. I think it's nice, especially for the prices. It's really nice, and it always adds a couple of grams up front, which again, I don't think it's a massive difference, but every little helps. And what do we do with the servo? So, well, the basic go-to option is the Emax servo. This is the analog one. Here I have the digital version. For a couple of bucks more, I prefer the digital version because it's a bit faster and a bit stronger than the analog. So why not going for that? And you know that to install the Emax servo, you have to modify the servo tray inside. Fortunately, it's a very easy to work plastic servo, so you can, again, with a hobby knife or with a simple blade, you can very easily trim it to make room for the Emax servo very easily. You don't need one of those aluminum, whatever, specific trays. But if you want, brass heavy diff covers, I use them in all of my rigs. You have it in like in naked brass, golden material, or in black coated. If you use the black coated, just keep in mind that sooner or later it will start to get scratched and you will be seeing the properly gold material underneath. For me, it's not an issue. I like my rigs to be used and abused and to show some battle scars on it. It adds more weight when it has to be, which is up front and down low in the most beneficial part for the weight balance. What else? The links. The suspension links of these cars are not bad. They're kind of soft and bendy, but again, I don't think it's a big issue considering that these parts are normally not having a lot of stress. These cars are not very heavy, and a lot of the stress on the suspension goes to the shocks instead of the links. But well, it's also wonderful to show the belly of your car and be, oh, shiny. So apart from buying these metal links, you can get them with clearance design, which is this type of bend. Some call them mantis style or whatever, instead of being straight like that. This is basically to make some more space and more clearance underneath. I don't think it's a massive difference. You won't get stuck on things just because you won't have the clearance links instead. Probably the car or the road will just slide under the link, but well, it's nice if you have it, and of course it's better to have a clearance instead of a straight link. One of the main things that I like changing in my cars is the motor. So you can go for a brushless system, which in most of the cases would be a Furitech Komodo motor. I have one, and I have to say that probably suitable if you're gonna compete or you're gonna make very technical stuff indoors. If you're going outdoors, you're gonna need to work and trim and probably add some accessories to the gearbox because it's totally exposed and all the gears are open and exposed. So if you're running this vehicle in the wild with stones, pebbles, dirt, etc., it can get all messed up inside. So considering that, and the Komodo used to be a very slow motor in terms of wheel speed, so when I have to pass a very steep slippy incline, you need a lot of wheel speed to pass it. No matter the torque, no matter how slow speed, smooth control you have, you need a lot of wheel speed. So this is where I found the 050 brushed motor come in handy. I have to cut one of the battery tray legs because it's falling more or less in the same place where the motor is coming. I have this Injora Pro version of the 050 motor. This version, it's a 50 turn. This is the cheapest and regular most popular 66 turn version. One more thing to consider, especially if you want to work and you want to modify your Bronco, as we said, is top heavier because of the plastic hard body instead of the Lexan lighter body. So you want to add as much weight down low as possible. So as said, not only for the brass diff covers and probably the brass in the front steering links, if you want to add brass clearance links underneath, it's a nice option, but also it's really important to fit the brass wheel weights underneath. So as you can see, I am mounting different but kind of very similar wheel weights inside. That's why I love using the OEM rims, even if I change it from different tires, in this case from the Injora tires that I also like a lot. They perform really similar to the RC four-wheel drive in my opinion, and it costs probably half of the price. So reutilizing the OEM rims, you also have more space for your wheel weights to fit inside. So I think that's also a must if you want to place your weight as low as possible, and it's definitely something needed if you want to work with different decent angles of incline, especially side hill incline and uphill incline. You will be needing some more weight down low. And to finish, probably something that is optional, but I found it useful and I love it, especially if you're going a bit more also technical or going to climb some heavy stuff on rocks and even in the wild, is to have one overdrive differential gear set. So the normal factory gear set like this, it's a 16 tooth. Injora and I think Hot Racing or Trial, I think it's Trial, they make a overdrive differential gear set in two setups. You have the 14 tooth, like I use in this one, and you have the 13 tooth, which is a bit more aggressive. This gives more or less normally, I think something over 15% of overdrive versus the more than 20% of overdrive of the 13 tooth setup. I am very conservative with overdrives because I like the benefits of it, but I'm also conscious about their cons. So I prefer to stay a little bit conservative and use the 14 tooth in my rigs instead of the 13. I fitted to this one. I'm pretty happy with it. Also consider that it adds more wheel speed because you are making the front wheels go faster than the rears. So if the rears are maintaining the same speed as a stock, the front ones will be, like I said, something around 15% faster, which is more than sufficient for working with a 2S LiPo and having a lot of wheel speed on the outdoors and with slippy inclines, as we said. But apart from that, we can make other modifications like I did. I think the most obvious and basic one, with not a lot of expense, is to change the battery location instead of being backwards, to put it front. I like it because the battery is one of the heaviest part of the rig that you can move. And also I like changing the shock mounting positions, even if I'm still using very similar shocks to the factory ones. Well, actually in the rear I'm still using the factory shocks. I just like to place them in another slot. This is because with that I can have a little more flexibility and a bit more travel. And in the front I like replacing them just because I can use my different tension or different preload with the ring and the thread spring. So I can change the spring and I can change the preload with the thread, as I said. So what do you think? Some of those modes maybe are overrated? Do you think that I'm missing some? Do you have to bring your own ideas? Please share it in the comments and subscribe.